is to ask.
Hello, I just had two quick questions. One is when you're in the deep, the theta stage, I've heard a collective we, and I've heard what I think is a collective I.
Somebody else asked that question.
Okay, well, I want to know, is it possible for Mr. Stupid to arise during the theta phase, or no?
No, there's no way he was in there at all.
I mean, they can't pop up.
No.
That was not the question.
I know what the question was. It was the same one the other one asked about. I hear an I or a we. Sometimes they will talk that way.
Okay.
It is talking about I am doing this, but you know the difference. If Mr. Stupid comes in, it's I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I
just
can
don't know
do
if it's
that.
possible for Mr. Stupid to actually arise during the theta phase.
It happens sometimes, but then we know how to push it back down.
Okay.
Because sometimes even in the past life, they're going along, they're there, they are that person. All of a sudden they'll say, you know, I'm making all this up, don't you? That's Mr. Stupid.
Okay.
And I'm thinking like, I don't need you. And I said, that's okay, continue talking to me. And as you were saying, and you push it out of the picture again.
Okay.
But a left-brain person, even when we're in the subconscious, will sometimes try that.
Right.
And if it does, and I asked a question, they don't know the answer, then I know it's their conscious mind.
It's the conscious mind.
And I have to push that out of the way.
And the second question.
I guess I should tell them how.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay. Because if they're still trying to get in there, and you know it's them, I just say, I don't want Jane. I want Jane's subconscious. And I used to say, Jane can go back to the beautiful place and play while we talk. But then Julia said, I wouldn't like that. Because tell them which way you've told them about.
Well, I'm a control freak. Any other control freaks out there? Would that work for you?
No.
Go off over there and play while we talk. I don't think so. I'm just going to stick right here and I'm going to dig in my heels even further.
And what are you going to talk about? So we found out then if I say, okay, Jane can stand over to the side and listen. She might learn a lot while we have our conversation. Then I continue. I'm speaking to Jane's subconscious. And you can tell when it's them. But if you've got a stubborn one who still wants to keep jumping in, and you can tell because it changes. They don't know anything. And if they still keep on like that, I found tricks. I find these tricks by accident when we're doing these sessions. And I might say, what did I say? Okay, they can't answer, and I say, tell me the very first thing comes into your mind when I ask the question. Then they sneak in there and we're ready to go. Tell them why. She's figured it out.
And this is coming from the receiving end, what it feels like. And this will be useful for you tomorrow, okay, or however you're going to do your sessions. Because there is a level of awareness going on. And if you, I just want to...
with a left brain.
Right, you may go off the deep end and not remember anything. Fantastic, wonderful. But you may not. Also, you may stay aware. That's okay. As long as that information is coming through. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not interfering, you're allowing. Now, if there is a certain amount of awareness, and that's like shit, you stand to the side and listen, all right? You're real close, right there. And remember, you're a control freak. What's going on? What's going to be said? And you're right up there. What am I doing when I'm doing this? There's an opening right here that's going to come through. What's happening? Somebody talk too fast because it's not comfortable.
She's blocking
When
The
you do
opening.
that, yes, you block the opening. When you're sitting there, what's going on? And a lot of times there's expectations. And that's what it is. It's not malicious trying to block it. It's just like, there's an, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Waiting, expecting, whatever. And so you block it. And you actually, on the receiving end, what I felt is you have to move. You have to move a little bit so they can slide through. The first time, I think I gave them that much room. It was like a quarter of an inch. That's all I was going to budge. That's all it took. Okay, you just have to move a little bit and they could slide through. So, if you say, what's the first thing you hear?
It comes into your mind.
Or the first thing that comes into your mind, anything like that, what do you do with your head when you're listening?
Turn your head.
You do this, something like this, don't you? That's all it takes. You can just get them back up, it can come through. That's all it takes. So you on the receiving end, just allow. Listen for something. If there's something, anything, just allow that. Just go with it. And then it'll allow it through. Okay? You don't have these expectations, oh, it's going to be whatever, it's going to take me over, and I'm waiting, when's it going to happen? Because when you do all that, it blocks it. Okay, because it's right there. It's right there trying to come in.
Because I've had people say, I felt like I was over here to the side listening to somebody talking and I didn't know what they were saying. And I had another man, after he woke up, he said, I heard all these words coming out of my mouth, and I said, well, I've got to stop that. But he couldn't stop it. But sometimes when we got to subconscious, we're trying to get it, and I've had them say through clenched teeth, she won't let you talk. So they're really trying to get in there. And other times when I ask for the subconscious, say, you sure can. You don't know how long I've been waiting to say something, but she won't listen to me. And other times it might say, I don't know if I want to talk or not. She doesn't listen to me anyway. So it'll come through many different ways. But if the conscious mind is very obvious, because you're not going to get the answers to anything, you've got to get them out of there. And if they're very strong-willed, they'll keep trying to come in. But just push them over to the side. Stand there and listen. Just so you don't interfere.
Okay, real quick, second question. Is it not advisable to do this more often? Can you put somebody under trance as often as they'd like to in order to talk to the subconscious?
Why would you need to?
Just if you have different questions coming up at different times?
That's why you want to do it all in one session, then you're done. You don't want to turn it into a game.
Well, not a game, but what if something came up, you became sick a few months later, or you aren't getting the answers you think, you've been
Well,
asking
yeah, you
for?
can do it if you want to, but I don't want the client to become dependent on me.
Okay.
Otherwise, psychologists and psychiatrists have this problem. They're close. A patient, the client will be calling them up for every little thing. Should I sell my car? What should I cook for supper? That's what psychologists have told me. They become so dependent on them, they can't make the simplest decision. So you don't want that. You want them to go on and live their own life.
Okay.
But you can do it as much as you want, especially once you get them conditioned. But it's like, why?
Okay.
Why do you have to keep coming back to me and doing this? You can do it
Do it
yourself.
yourself. Okay.
Live your own life. But it does no harm.
Okay.
But the most I ever did it when I was working on the books was I'd see somebody once a week. You know? But it can't hurt them anyway. But don't turn it into fun and games, that becomes more real than their life. We don't want that,
Hi there. My question is, how do we do ourselves? I'm sure that's come up in the past, but is there a different process? There's got to be. I mean, you don't
A lot
have.
of you have been asking me that.
I haven't gotten an answer. I hadn't asked.
Do you meditate?
Yes.
That's the easiest way. You're not going to go as deep if you try to do it by yourself. That's because you can't go into the somnambulistic level on your own. If you do, you'll fall asleep. So the best way to get your answers is to have somebody else work with you so they can ask the questions. And I've had people say, well, I can make a tape recording of my questions I want to ask. How are you going to answer them?
Yeah.
And they said, well, I'll make another tape recording over here that'll catch my answers or something. Because if you go that deep, you're going to fall asleep. So if you want to do it on your own, I think meditation is the best way. Because that is the alpha state. That's the lightest level. And meditation is very good for you.
Another good way, if you do not meditate, I do not meditate, and I know there's some others that have talked to me and asked if you have to meditate, you do not. Another great place is right before you go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
You're in that same state. And so you're there, and what a way that you can work with yourself, because you're already in that relaxed state, you know now how to talk to the subconscious.
Right before you go to sleep, you can ask questions and listen to the first thing that comes into your mind. That's your answer. The same way with meditation. Ask the question and then listen to the first thing that comes in. And if you're new at this, you'll think, well, that's a silly answer, or that's my ego talking. But the first thing that comes into your mind is your answer. And after a while, you get so used to working with them that you'll have more of a conversation, and that's when she started out, and you get to hear them clearer.
I just wanted to add that if I can. I've done that, and they actually showed me. Instead of answering, they showed me.
You'll get all kinds of, the statement was, I've actually done that, and they've shown her. Now, and that's true. You'll get your answer in whatever way you receive your information. You might hear it, you might see it, you might smell it, it's whatever way, you might feel it. Whatever way you get your information, like we talked about yesterday. So be open to an answer in any number of ways.
Because the subconscious are visual, and I always ask them, if we're getting into something complicated, I said, can you give me an analogy? Or something, kind of a picture that I can explain to people. So they like to show you things. That easiest way to work with pictures. But you learn how to do it on your own, but I just think it's easier to have someone else ask you the questions. Then you're out of the process. Well, okay.
Okay, we haven't really touched on this subject, but I figure since we are starting to do this tomorrow, I want to make sure that I can ask this. Sometimes on the sessions that I was doing, I will feel as though there was a dearly departed that needed to come in and give them a message. I do not want to disrupt your technique. I want to know if that is something that can be done, especially for a grieving widow or a mother that has just lost her child.
I get a lot of those.
I really feel that it will be really important for their closure to get that. Can that be done? Has it been done? Do they ever come?
I've had the person come to them and talk to them that is deceased.
That's
I've
what
had
she's
that
talking
happen.
about. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
had that happen in sessions.
Can it be requested? Like, if the person
I
is
just-
here, can it?
Remember, they're going to do the most appropriate thing.
Right.
And usually when it happens, I don't expect it. But I had a woman who come in, and she was still grieving for her sister that had died. Because the sister went in the hospital, and they didn't think she was that sick, but she died. And she just couldn't come to terms with the whole thing. But then we went on with the whole session, and I didn't know that that was the most important thing. So when we got into off the cloud, comes into the session, she didn't go into a past life. She's standing in a beautiful garden. Well, I know that's the spirit side, because they always describe the spirit side the same way. A beautiful garden full of flowers, and she sees her sister walking toward her through the flowers. So I let it unfold the way it's supposed to. That was what she needed. It didn't need to go to a past life. But the sister came up to her and she just said, let me go. You can see how beautiful it is here.
Yes.
You're grieving for someone, you're holding them back. Let me go. And the woman said, but we thought you were getting better. What happened? She said, it was my time. And everything is the way it's supposed to be. Just realize that and let me go. And before that part was over, she said, there's some other people you need to see. Then she saw her mother and father, who were deceased, coming through the flowers also. They looked a lot younger, and they were healthy and happy, and they came up to her too and said, don't grieve for us. Can't you see how beautiful it is here? We're happy, and you will be here someday too. Well, that's what they needed, and it was a closure. But I didn't ask for it to happen. They did it. But if it doesn't, you can still get into the subconscious part and let it. You say, well, ask about the parents, and it may do it that way. It'll definitely tell them they're in a beautiful place. But I had another one who just went instead of going to a past life, it was the same way. I don't think hers was a garden. I think it was just beautiful colors and mist. And her father came to her. And I think her father had left the family when she was a child, and there was it was real bad feelings toward the father and all of this. Anyway, her father comes up to her, and this woman had heart problems. She was going for heart surgery. The father comes up to her, he puts his hand inside of her chest, and he said, I broke your heart. Now I'm going to repair it. And I let them go ahead and do it. And he did, he fixed the heart. It was his way of repaying for him not being there when she was growing up and causing all these problems all throughout her life. I broke your heart.
Thank you very much.
And it was a very emotional session. But sometimes it happens like that, but I don't ask for it, it just happens. But otherwise, if they have it on their list of questions, I want to know about my mother or my father or my child, they'll answer it. It's always the same answer, it was their time. They did what they were supposed to do, and it was time to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So don't ask for it, just I'll let it happen.
A follow-up on that, then, did you talk to the father? The father that came in, or were you, how did that look? Okay, I'm going to repeat that. A follow-up on that is, did you talk to the father? What happened there?
No, the woman, the client is talking to the father, and she's telling me what he's saying and what is happening. Because I'm talking to her. Uh-huh.
Hi, I have two questions. I hope I can make sense of the first one. If you have two individuals, a male and a female, and they're best friends, the male commits suicide. If the male decides he wants to come back as a child of the female later in life, do they both carry the karma?
No, that doesn't happen. It's very rare for that to happen because it's too soon.
Okay.
When someone commits suicide, they have broken the contract, they have created a lot of problems for themselves and everybody in their life. So when they get to the other side, now they're not condemned, they're met with great love because they know they took on more than they were supposed to do. But they have to go to the spiritual hospital to stay there for a long time before they come back. They have to be worked with. If they come back too soon, their life is still a mess, they're going to go back into the same situation. So there are special spirits that are assigned to work with suicides, to get them to understand what they did before they allowed them to come back. Because when they come back, you don't get out of anything. You have to repeat the same circumstances with the same people. So that means it's reincarnated with the same people in another lifetime. They wouldn't come back as the best friend's child because that would be too soon. And it just usually doesn't work that way. And I've only had people always saying, is my son my reincarnated grandfather? He sure has the same characteristics and stuff like that. I've only had 2 cases out of thousands and thousands where the person reincarnated in the same family. And it was under extremely special circumstances that it happened. So a suicide, I doubt it, because that they have definite rules over there, and they have where they run all of this. The suicide has to be dealt with, and they got to work out their problems before they'll come back. And if the best friend was involved with the reasons for the suicide, they got to wait till that person reincarnates, and then the 2 of them can come back again. See what I mean? It won't happen in
Makes
this
sense.
lifetime.
And my second question was, what's the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame?
There's not any difference, but I think you heard me on the tape. It's better off if you never find one.
Right.
It's just a name people put on it.
Thank you.
I don't think it matters one way or the other.
Yeah, you've not really gotten from the subconscious a lot of terminology
Yeah.
like that.
Sir, the subconscious has never used those terms. I think those are man-made terms people put on things. I think people asked about soulmates, but it has never mentioned twin flames and never mentioned any of those terms. It's a metaphysical type terms. But you always like to think there's somebody out there for you, and it's possible. Okay.
This is a pragmatic question regarding the case of Mr. Humongous Fungus Among Us, or whatever. Now, I understand your clients are coming from all around the world, and with most of us it'll be different. We'll start locally. When you've blocked out a period of 5 to 7 hours of your day and it doesn't work because of the resistance the first time, and you said, oh, he came back the second time.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Do you charge him? Is that a
I
wash?
charge him for both. It's one session. It takes as long as it takes.
Okay, all
But
right.
I tell them, I don't charge for the hour. I charge for one session. That's why they're not sitting there looking at the clock. And I tell them that it takes as long as it takes. And if I have to have them come back the next day, that's all part of the same session.
Okay, that's the
And
clarity I need.
if I can't satisfy the person, I can do it, but sometimes they are upset you didn't do anything, and I said, okay, then you don't have to pay me anything.
Okay, thanks.
So, and if they call later, they're upset about something, I refund their money. But no, I don't charge them for both. It takes my time, and that kind of a person is taking up the valuable time that I could be spending with someone who needed a session. It gets me aggravated, but I'm not going to charge them more money. It might learn them a lesson, but I don't know.
I'm just wondering what happens as a practitioner for you if you have somebody who comes in and they're in trance state and they're recognizing you from a past life.
Never happened.
Okay. I mean, obviously, if you're doing that with family, they're going to recognize you, but it's never happened as far as
Not
Well,
yet.
my family,
Okay.
they don't recognize me. It will come up.
I don't think I've seen you in a past life yet.
Okay.
And nobody else has ever said that.
And so maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but it's probably not the lives that they're being taken to then.
I've done an awful lot of people in 45 years, and I've never had anyone do that.
Thank you.
Maybe she's never been here before.
Well, I do know my connection with my family because I've had 8 of my lives. And I know where they've all entered in. I've had past lives with each one of them. But that's because I went back to those lives and we found out. But none of them ever said, oh, I recognize you. But that's why you don't need, this is a tool, but you don't need it after a while. I found out why I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I found out my connection to my family, and after a while, I don't need to do it anymore.
Yes, Dolores, with the film that you showed us, I saw that in the interview she was sitting down. And And then, did you take a break in between there? Like everybody went for lunch or
That's
had a
what we
snack?
did, yeah.
Oh, you did that?
We took
Okay,
a
so you just want
break.
But I
the
don't
confidence.
do it in a session in my office.
Right.
Okay, you go straight through.
Yeah, we did that because it was a class, and we said, come back, and then we will, they said to rearrange the room, get the bed out and everything,
Okay.
and then we were ready to do the session. But in your office, you do the interview, then let them go to the restroom, and then we start right into the session. There's no break.
I was wondering if there's ever any scenario in which you don't need to do a past life and you go right to the SC.
No, you can't get there. Unless it comes in on its own sometimes, without any past life. But that's what a lot of people say, wouldn't it be a lot easier to start there? Okay, you start the session. May I speak to Jane's subconscious? I don't know what you're talking about. You've got to get them out of the picture. You've got to get them deep enough before you can contact it. The best way to get them deep enough is to take them through a past life. Then they get into the deeper level and you can contact them. But in the beginning, then you can't just say go directly there.
Okay.
Unless we've done the keyword, but we did
Exactly.
have,
Thank you.
yeah, the keyword later, but I mean the very first time you do it. But we had a case in Perth where we were doing a demo for a class, and it was a woman that had leukemia. Well, this one man had come all the way from Indonesia to take the class. And we did the whole class, and we're getting ready for the demo. And as we started, I think we were only in the beautiful place even. Sometimes they'll start there. All of a sudden, the subconscious just jumped in and he was there, and he took over the whole session. And I think, wow, this is really neat. The class is getting to see this can happen. And he controlled the whole session all the way through, and he healed the leukemia. It just said, poof, it's gone. She didn't need it in the first place. And the leukemia was her way of trying to get out of here. And that's what all diseases are anyway. They want to leave, they want to transition, they want to die. And that was her way that she was trying to get out of this life. But anyway, went through the whole thing, and it was a beautiful session. And I thought, wow, the whole class has got to see something that's very unusual. Well, after it's over, the man from Indonesia said, I am extremely disappointed. I said, why? You got to see something very few students ever get to see. He said, yeah, but I wanted to watch you go step by step through the whole process to call it in. Can't make everybody happy. And I said, we're giving you the recordings of these other sessions, the ones I played. You can hear on there how it is done. So be prepared for anything. Sometimes they will jump in. But otherwise, you've got to get the client deep enough to where the conscious mind won't come in. And that doesn't happen when you first get them laid down and start.
Thank you.
That's why we had to do that process. Okay.
My question is actually after Julia talked yesterday, it seemed like, when you went in, you were in the San Francisco Chronicle, and I think we're about the same age, and I was wondering the time span between when you cross to when you reincarnate, because it seemed like that was possibly a really short time. And I was wondering if there is an average. I know it could be probably, I don't know.
There's no set rule.
So it could be in months? Could you reincarnate again in months, or no?
The shortest time I've ever found was a woman who was only dead for 2 years.
2 years.
And that was very fast turnaround. It's
Okay.
usually not that quick.
That-
But she wanted to get back in here to be in this time period right now.
Okay. I just thought that if that came up, then I could be prepared. Well, that was only 10 years ago, and you're back.
Well, oh no, it won't happen in a matter of months because you haven't had a chance to make your plans yet.
Okay.
Because, they said it can take 100 years, it can take 2 or 3 years, depends on what it is you're supposed to come back and learn, and you have to make sure all the souls that you want to deal with are all going to be there at the same time. and
Okay.
see if they're still alive, how you're going to get back
Right.
into that.
Yeah, it just brought it up because it seemed like it was quick for Julia. I mean, in my head anyway. So
Not
that's why I
really,
thought I
what would have
ask.
been, well, she was born in 57,
That's when I was born. I thought we were the same age.
and that would have been somewhere around the end of World War II, somewhere in there. See, that's a good 10 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. But there's no set rule, and some people tell me that they have read different things, you have to come back in so many years apart. There's no set rule. Depends on your growth and what you're coming back to learn. And you do have to make your plan. You have to go to the schools on the other side to get worked out, what am I gonna work on next time? So if you come back too soon, we have had some examples of people trying to come back too soon. They've not made a plan. Their whole life is one big mess. They haven't had the structure. They haven't had the advice. So they try to get back in here too soon. Okay.